Nothing. Testing, testing.
I think it's working. All right. Thank you, my little CEO. So, good afternoon. Thank you for joining me for this podcast titled Back to Roots. And what I'll be doing every month now is meeting with you and answering some questions and giving you some important information about various topics dealing with health and so on and so forth. So what I like to do now is go ahead and I've got 3 questions here from our viewers and our listeners and our followers that I'd like to go ahead and address. And again, you can just email those to Back to Nature Lifestyle Medicine. You can message us on Facebook, or it's backtonaturelm@gmail.com. So feel free to send any questions to us, and be more than happy to spend some time and answer those for you thoroughly. So Kim asks, and this is this is a pretty legit question right now. She goes, my seasonal allergy is starting to return, and what can I do for those for my springtime allergies? Okay, so one thing with allergies you want to recognize is that an allergy is simply a protein that gets across the barrier where it should not be. And you could have many different types of symptoms of this: itchy eyes, runny nose, coughing, histamine, histamine reactions where you have the redness and the hives and the itching and swelling. And these could be from, more likely, the most common source of allergies are actually a compromised digestive system. So be mindful of what you're eating. And one of the best defenses you can do to strengthen yourself against allergies is keeping your stomach acid as acidic as possible. And a great way to do that is getting some Bragg's apple cider vinegar. That is a much better option than any of the over-the-counter antihistamines, Benadryl, Zyrtec, any of those. You want to use some apple cider vinegar, and there's different flavors. There's the grape. There's an apple cinnamon one that really tastes amazing. There are ginger. There's many other flavors, as opposed to just using the mother unfiltered. That one is pretty strong, and a lot of people aren't going to enjoy the taste of it. So you could use mother, maybe 6 ounces mixed with water, and see if that gives you a little bit of relief. If you notice that it upsets your stomach, that usually indicates that you have some kind of ulcer or some kind of gastritis problem. And so, that's going to set you up for further allergies. Now, one point I do want to make clear is don't use over-the-counter Benadryls and things like that, because they will block your detox path and make whatever symptoms you're having much worse, especially whenever the medication wears off. Okay, whenever we take something like a Benadryl or an acid, an antidepressant, those things will actually tie up your liver function so much that if you have a dormant cancer cell inside you, or a lingering stealth infection, maybe a virus or something like that, and you block that detox pathway, now what you're doing is giving it life. You're fueling it and letting it wake up. And many people are having a lot of trouble detoxing appropriately today. The food, the Roundup that's in our rain, the Roundup that's in our wheat and our oats and our grains and all our food that people are consuming actually blocks that pathway as well. So people are having a very difficult time detoxing. And if you add any of those medications to your regimen, just one of them, you're going to notice that you might feel better temporarily, but you are really setting yourself up for disaster long term. So again, use something to increase your stomach acidity, and a great way to do that is apple cider vinegar. Okay. So our next question comes from Brian, and he's asking, what is my daily protocol like? That's a pretty good question. If you're listening, you probably want to have a pad and paper handy, because I do take a lot of things every day. Now, I drink coffee in the morning. I drink King coffee. It's the only kind of coffee I drink. And I'm a big advocate of staying away from coffee, because usually it's toxic. heavily sprayed with fungicides, pesticides, herbicides, and it will put you into a fight or flight state. So if you're having any kind of digestive problems whatsoever, bloating, cramping, indigestion, heartburn, bouts of diarrhea, constipation, coffee is just going to exacerbate that and ultimately make it worse, because now you're turning your digestive system off when you're putting your system into that fight or flight. So coffee can cause a lot of problems. The King coffee does not do this. It's actually the opposite. So I start my morning out with King coffee, and then I usually fast until about 11:30 to noon, and that's when I'll have my first meal of the day. And with that, I'll take some supplements before I go in to have lunch. I will take my Cadlin, which is my multivitamin. I'll take 4 to 6 of those a day, just depending on how strenuous I am and how stressed I'm, how stressful my day is. When you're stressed out, if you're having a day where you're a lot busier and you notice your thoughts are shifting a lot more, and you are under a little bit more workload, keep in mind that you're going to burn through your reserves a little quicker. So it's important to replenish those. So I take Cadlin every day. Again, I take vitamin D every single day, unless I'm going to be out in the sun. I don't take it on the days I'm out in the sun. But like today here in Kansas, it's very cloudy, and we're just not going to get as much as we should be. So vitamin D, I'm a big fan of Dr. Joe Wallach, so I do take my 90 essential nutrients a day, or 91, if you count that omega-7 fatty acid. So again, minerals are 2/3 of your essential nutrients, and those are something you don't get in food today, and they are incredibly important for cellular function, all the processes, and all the enzymatic occurrences that affect all our digestion, all our immunity, how our nervous system functions, everything. Everything is regulated by these spark plugs in the body known as minerals. And out of your 90 essential nutrients, you have to have 3 fatty acids, 16 vitamins, and that's A, F, D, E, and K, and all your B vitamins as well. And you also need to have 12 amino acids, and I get those through a protein shake. Okay, I take a protein shake about every day or every other day. That's actually what I had for lunch today, to make sure I get my essential amino acids. Again, these are something that is not in food either. Okay, and then out of the 2/3 of those essential nutrients, 2/3 of those are actually minerals. So I use I use oxygen every day as well for mitochondria support, and I use my liquid minerals to ensure that I'm replacing all the trace minerals that you can lose from getting in contact with Roundup. So that's essentially it. But I also believe in what's called pulsing. So if I am having a more stressful week and I'm actually doing a lot more and on the go a lot, I will ensure that I'm taking more supplements. Now, if I'm pretty easygoing, if the days are not demanding a lot and I'm actually I feel like I burn to my reserves, I will skip a day or two of not taking supplements. So it's just kind of up to you, but it's essential to get those minerals in, make sure you can absorb those, and then make sure you're covering your basis with some of the heavy hitters, such as vitamin D. And again, everyone's a little different. Some people are going to have a little more difficult time absorbing those. Some people are chronic carriers of infections. Some people have thyroid issues, so they need a little more iodine. Everyone's a little different, but getting your 90 essential nutrients is going to ensure that your cell turnover rate is actually adequately sufficient in nutrients. And that's really important, because today people are generational starving. And that's why you see in our country every 3 days a child athlete drops dead playing sports because of B vitamin deficiencies, and their heart goes out of rhythm. So this is very important. It's overlooked. Most people aren't talking about it. But if you have adequate B vitamins, your heart stays in check. And don't think you're going to get these 24 B vitamins. And I think Royal even said there might be 40 B vitamins when you combine other sources of B vitamins Don't think you're going to get those from buying a supplement in the grocery store that has maybe 6 or 8. Chances are your body is not even going to recognize those. So get with someone who is a nutritional expert and knows what they're talking about in order to make sure you're adequately hitting your cells on all cylinders. Okay. So thanks. That was a great question. Now, Sue says, I've been a follower of yours for years, and lately you've had a lot of posts about mushrooms, and there's a lot of talk about mushrooms going on. Can you give us a little insight on why this is such a hot topic right now? Well, I'm glad you are paying attention, Sue, because it's absolutely true. Mushrooms are our most powerful weapon in nature. Okay, and I had a meeting with these 2 gentlemen earlier today, and they were talking about the technology in my office, and I kind of told them, we use the greatest technology there is already, and they were kind of baffled by where I was going. But my point is, if you want to look at the most successful model in nature or successful model in existence, we have to look at nature. And mushrooms are our most powerful allies for getting us out of this mess. Okay. So in reality, all the world's problems today can be solved one way or another with mushrooms. They are very fast growing. They're very powerful at detoxifying. And some of the studies that have come out on these are showing that they can help us alleviate many of the health challenges that we are facing today, including brain health, a lot of blood sugar problems with a diabetic epidemic, autoimmune, chronic problems these people are facing. And mushrooms are actually very surprising in the literature, and what the the traits that we share with them are absolutely mind-blowing. Mushrooms actually breathe oxygen like we do. They expel carbon dioxide like we do. We are more related to mushrooms than any other kingdom. And that's something important to keep in mind, because they share the same pathogens we do. They have resilience against the same viruses and the same bacteria that we do. So when we consume these, you are going to get health benefits. Some of the more intriguing health benefits are, for brain health. I mean, they can actually clear plaques out of the brain, and you can develop not only the brain matter you have now, but always ultimately a new level of consciousness. And that is something that we are completely missing today with all this. Everywhere you look, someone's staring at a phone. And this is not really social media, it's anti-social media. So we need more of a human conscious. We need more of a human experience, and we need to connect as people better. And mushrooms can help us do all that. Okay. It's important to know the source of where you're getting your mushrooms as well, because they are all, they're growing in popularity. 2019 is going to be the trend of coffee mushrooms. Okay. And they're not all the same. You want to know where your mushrooms are coming from. Many of the competitors, many of the companies that are starting to produce organically grown Ganoderma, because of its popularity, are actually growing these in plastic bags and in laboratories. And if you see the picture of the two comparing which ones we use versus the ones that are grown in the plastic bags, it's very obvious that these mushrooms were never stressed out. When you're in a plastic bag in a stable environment in a laboratory, you don't get all the necessary microRNA from the environment in order to grow to your highest potential. The mushrooms we use are actually grown 185 miles from the closest civilization out on mountains, and they're stressed naturally in their natural environment. And when you stress something like a mushroom or something like a plant, you stress it naturally in its environment, these organisms activate their own defense systems. They activate their own defensive methods and increase the antioxidant load in themselves to protect themselves from whatever the threat might be. And those translate into the chemical properties that allow us to be benefited when we consume these. So when you look at mushrooms like Ganoderma and its brilliant, bright red color, those are disease-fighting colors. When you look at some mushrooms that are grown in the labs, they look like pancake color. they don't have those disease-fighting properties. So again, trust your source, know your source well, and don't buy anything off Amazon that you would consume, okay? That's a great piece of advice. I've seen a lot of people get in trouble because they buy things from shady companies that are now shortchanging this, cutting corners, or even plagiarizing the quality of the ingredients that you're wanting, okay? So I hope this helps. Again, send more questions to us, Back to Nature Lifestyle Medicine on Facebook. We're eager to hear from you, and I'd be more than happy to go into some depths about some of the concerns and questions you guys might have. All right. So to have vibrant health, you got to love yourself. You got to get back to your roots, back to nature. Thanks for listening today.